If you had a gold bar, what would you do with it?
Oh, I definitely probably try and turn it into cash as soon as possible so that I can spend it.
Hi, welcome to Reality Checks with Brian Reitz. That's me. On Reality Checks, guests propose a survey question to 1,000 Americans. YouGov runs the poll, and then guests try to predict the results. Today's guest is Sandy Kaul, Head of Innovation at Franklin Templeton. Welcome, Sandy.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Brian. Happy to be here.
Yep. Seen you making the media tour. Glad that we could get you on Reality Checks for today's episode.
Excited to see how I do.
So what topic did we pick? What are we talking about today?
I think we are talking about adoption of crypto.
We are talking about that. And why did we pick that? What is Franklin Templeton doing in crypto that made that an interesting topic?
Yeah, so actually Franklin Templeton, even though a lot of people might think of us as kind of an old-fashioned mutual fund firm, has actually been at the absolute forefront of driving into these new crypto rails. We have built our own entire infrastructure. We were the first firm ever to launch a tokenized mutual fund. We are out there every day in the crypto native ecosystem. Our infrastructure is across 8 different public blockchains, and we do our own node operations across 11 different networks. And so we really are all in on this space and see it as the future of the financial market industry, and think that eventually all investment products are going to be trading on blockchain rails and sitting in wallets. So we're super excited about the future there.
We can dig into the data. As mentioned, we collaborated on a survey. YouGov took that survey to its consumer research panel. 1,000 Americans responded. I've looked at the results. You haven't seen them, right?
No.
Okay. So without further ado, we'll get into our questions. So first things first, how many Americans do you think say that they're knowledgeable investors?
I think it's higher than it was years ago. I'm going to guess 65%.
65%. Why'd you pick that number?
I think that there's been a lot of financial education that's become available through the internet. I think that there's starting to be more platforms where people share their investment knowledge. And so I think that you're starting to have a more and more educated audience. I think that it used to be this was seen as an area that you couldn't know about yourself. You had to rely on experts. And I think more and more Americans now feel that they understand how to invest and how to build a good portfolio.
Let's see what the answer says. I would say you said what, 65%. So if you count the not very, like, I would say there's not at all knowledgeable. You have about that 35%.
So that's a pretty good guess. I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm guessing you would probably be in one of those green segments there.
Yeah, I'd probably be in the very knowledgeable after 40 years in the industry, but not everybody has that option.
No, I'm myself in the 30%.
Okay, good.
Which is why we, people like you exist to help us out.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All right, next one is, are Americans confident they understand crypto?
This is a newer area, and crypto does operate in a very new way, right? This is the first time we've kind of built a decentralized economy. It's the first time things are totally peer-to-peer. It's on all new technology. So I think this is going to be a much lower number. I'm going to guess 20%.
20%. Okay. So I think for this one, I cut it by people who have been explained it or not. So I think that roughly gets us to 20%. So this is of people who've been explained it. 54% don't feel comfortable explaining it themselves. And then everyone else took multiple explanations to feel comfortable explaining it. So I guess that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a trick question, but it was kind of hard to articulate.
Well, if you look at once or twice at 18%, I think that's pretty close, right? I'd say that's understanding it if you feel you only need to explain it once or twice.
Yeah. How many times would you say that you, like, how long did it take you to grasp how cryptocurrency works?
Oh, way more than once or twice. It took me many explorations. And what ended up happening, Brian, is that I would understand a little bit more each time, right? And so I feel like because this whole new space is still evolving, even I'm still learning, right? So there's still things that I ask for explanations for on a pretty much weekly basis. So lots to learn there.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that of people who have been explained how it works, so like 21% said they needed 3 or 4 explanations to kind of articulate it back.
It is really different, but it's really exciting, and I think it is the future. So it's worth putting in those 3 or 4 times to try and understand it.
Cool. What is the most interesting thing you've purchased with cryptocurrency?
Well, there's actually a really famous story about that because the first thing ever purchased with cryptocurrency was pizza. And someone bought 2 pizzas from Papa John's and they paid 10,000 Bitcoin for it. So those pizzas in today's term would be worth about $4 billion.
So was Papa John's the first company to accept crypto?
I think that delivery guy who brought it from Papa John's was the first person to accept crypto.
Which generation has not been explained how cryptocurrency works?
Well, I'm going to have to go with baby boomers on that one.
That is correct. So
although I am a tail end baby boomer, and I do understand it. So I am one of the parts of the 49% of baby boomers who do.
Doing the hard work. Next one is, are men or women more bullish on crypto?
This one I do probably have a little bit more insight into because of the work my team does. And so I'm going to pretty confidently here say men.
Men. So that is, I think, correct. But what was interesting, because what we asked about, or the way we asked about it, and this was someone on your team, Keith, kind of was helping with this, was the kind of 60-40 portfolio split of basically, given that context, how many people think their portfolio will be crypto. So you have more men who think that they will have crypto in their portfolio, but the women who do think they're going to have more of it in 10 years. So kind of hypothetical.
I like it. The women risk takers. I view myself as one of that category.
All right. Thinking 10 years from now, what share of your portfolio will be crypto?
I think at least 35%, right? I think it's going to really start to be an important part of everyone's holdings because I think all the really new technology that we're going to build the world on is going to be represented by protocols, not by companies. And the way to own a protocol is through a token and cryptocurrency. So I think it's going to be a pretty high percentage because these protocols are kind of the new growth companies. And just like we've seen, when you get big growth and big changes in technology, that becomes a bigger and bigger part of the portfolio because that's driving more and more value and returns.
And I guess, how will the average American start to understand that better?
I think that there's going to be more and more utilization of things in Web3 without people realizing it. We're already starting to have people understand stablecoins. Stablecoins didn't even exist 10 years ago, and people are starting to use them. And I think you'll see more and more kind of crossover between the current financial world and the new crypto world. And soon the idea that there's a difference between the two will disappear. So I think it's going to happen gradually, but I think that people will be very comfortable with this idea that they can invest in companies via stocks and they can invest in protocols via tokens, and they're going to have some of both in their portfolio.
This is a bit of a fun one, maybe, but I think in the last week, it seemed like a 1 kilogram gold bar and a Bitcoin were about the same amount in valuation, according to online research of AI Overview on Google. So maybe not the most scientific, but what do you think? Would Americans rather own a gold bar or a Bitcoin right now?
Well, it's kind of heavy to carry around a gold bar, so I'm going to go with Bitcoin because it's a little easier to carry around. I think, a digital wallet than it is to carry around a bar of gold.
Okay, I think unfortunate news is that it was
Wrong.
gold bar. why do you think this is now that you've seen the data?
Yeah, I think that people, gold has been a store of value throughout history, right? And so it doesn't surprise me. And there's been a lot of headlines recently about gold making all new time highs. And, just the image of all of the heist movies we all watch and them stealing the bars of gold from the safe. I think that that's all kind of playing into people's psyche. So it doesn't surprise me. But I still go back to my practical answer. It's kind of hard to carry a bar of gold around.
Hard, and you can't split it. You can't say, I want a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Here's a tiny piece of my gold bar.
So here's a great question you can ask in a future survey. In 10 years, which do people think that they're going to prefer to own?
So I think we did ask that as well.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, depending on how you look, if I think people said gold bar, at least the average American. But we just saw that. What was it, like 50%, or was it? I think the total was like 45% haven't been explained how it works. So I think gold bar, people intuitively understand how that works.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
And then we had one other question, which was people who said that they were knowledgeable investors. Would they right now rather own a gold bar or Bitcoin?
I think knowledgeable investors probably are going to say, well, you just kind of slammed me on the gold bar answer. So now I'm going to switch it up and say, I bet they said gold bar still.
All right. You got it. They did. Knowledgeable is a self-identified item. So I don't know how are people actually knowledgeable, or do they think they're knowledgeable?
In the end, does it matter? As long as they think they are.
So that was the survey. Unfortunate news, I guess, for Americans, but I think that means if you are bullish on crypto, that you can get a good value on it still, despite the value seemingly going up and not stopping.
Well, I look at this very positively, though, actually, because 15% of people still said they would rather own Bitcoin of knowledgeable investors. And if we think about the fact that Bitcoin didn't even exist 20 years ago, that's a pretty good number.
That's true. And I think it was, this number is higher than it was for the average American. So people who have knowledge about investing are, more likely to.
Exactly.
Well, this has been Reality Checks. You can find more episodes at yougov.com/realitychecks. And Sandy, where can people find you?
You guys can find me at Franklin Templeton and on LinkedIn. And this has been really fun. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today for an episode of Reality Checks. Everything that you saw in this episode was based on a survey of 1,000 Americans from YouGov's Consumer Research Panel. If you want to survey those same Americans, you can. Just head over to YouGov's website, yougov.com/realitychecks. There's a lot more from our survey with Sandy that we didn't get to cover, so you can dig into that, or you can run your own research. As for me, I don't want a gold bar. I just want 5 stars. So just click that button, unless you're going to do 1 star because you're upset with me for what I just said, in which case, don't click the button. There's no button. Thanks. Take care. And I know there's a button. I don't want to gaslight you. Just please